Hey guys, this is Vincent here, and today I'll be making a tutorial about Autodesk Inventor. This tutorial will go over making standard parts, assemblies, and animations. The animation will be of this cart right here as shown on the screen, and hopefully by the end it should look something like this. Seems pretty simple, but it gets a little more complex. So without any further ado, let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of Inventor, reopen it, and start from scratch. On this computer I'm running Autodesk Inventor Professional 2014. The processes are very similar among the previous generations of software. Once Inventor opens up, it normally gives you this welcome screen. Go ahead and click New. With New, it gives you this create new file format, and as you can see there are parts, assemblies, drawings, and presentations. To sum it up, you have to make parts to make assemblies, and once you finish assemblies, that's going to be your product or whatever you're making. Once you have that product, you can make these drawings from the different dimensions, and it's pretty handy for presentations. So starting off, we will make a standard part. As this loads up, I just want you guys to know that if you don't change anything from when you open Inventor, your units will be in inches. Just to familiarize yourself with Inventor's functions, there are a couple things here. On the left right here, this is your browsing tree right here. It gives you your planes and parts as you build them. This top banner right here gives you multiple options while you're building. In this video, you also see this menu pop up a couple of times. All I'm doing is clicking right click, and it allows access to multiple shortcuts such as fillet, extrude, revolve, hole, sketch. So in order to make any 3D object on your computer, you must have a 2D sketch. What I just did there was create new sketch, which was either on this upper left hand side or this lower part right here. As you can see on my browsing tree, it registered my sketch already. So I'm just going to go ahead and double click this, and I'm back on my previous sketch. Be careful with your sketches because oftentimes I see people open multiple sketches, draw a couple things, and they don't turn off visibility and they contradict each other. So keep sketches limited, but they are a good thing. For me, I'm going to make the wheels first on the cart. So I'm going to use my right click button and center point circle. As you may notice, center point circle is also located on banner up top, right here. So I'm going to click center point circle and go ahead and hover over the center point of my axis, click it down, and right here I can draw a perfect circle in a virtual environment. I'm going to make these wheels 2 inches. I'm just going to type in 2, and it automatically brings up 2 inches. All I did was press tab, and it automatically lets me view it. I'm just going to go ahead and click, and my 2D sketch of a 2-inch circle in diameter is complete. I'm going to finish the sketch by right-clicking and dragging down to finish 2D sketch, or you can click up here, finish sketch. Once I did this, now I have a circle in a 2D environment, a 3D environment, if my mouse would behave. You see? Okay. All I did was drag this cube around. This cube is your orientation cube. You can view things or items from the top, corners, etc., rotate them, but I normally like to keep it at the home view. But for the sake, I'll keep it at the front view since that's the dimension we're working in. In order to make this wheel actually come into a 3D object, you must extrude it. Extruding can be found in your shortcut menu by right-clicking, or on this top banner right here, extrude. So I'm going to click extrude, and it automatically does 1 inch or your previous dimension you typed in there. I'm going to make this half an inch, so 0.5, and finish there. Right now I have a nice cylinder or tire, and I have to add the axles. So, once again, in order to make any 3D object, I have to make a 2D sketch. New sketch, select my face. As you can see, I can select from two flat faces for my 2D sketch. It's whichever one turns into that lighter gray color. Okay. So I'm going to make it on the front right here. Make another circle. And this time, the axle is going to be a lot smaller. I'll also make it half an inch in diameter. Type that in, finish the 2D sketch, and extrude. As you can see, similar to the 2D sketch, as I hover my mouse over different parts of the object, it turns a little lighter color. That is showing you which one you want to extrude. Personally, I think since we're building the axle, we should extrude the axle. So right here, I'm going to make the axle 1 inch, and as you can see, it extrudes it 1 inch. And that's it for the wheels. Even though you have 4 wheels, in an assembly you can import multiple objects. So all I will have to do in later of the video is import multiple wheels. So I'm going to save this car animation tutorial, and I'm going to name this wheel. As you can see, Autodesk Inventor parts are .ipt. As of SolidWorks, I'm not quite sure what those parts are, but each software has their own file format. From there, I'm just going to hit Control N or New, and it'll bring this up right here. You can also click this button right here, and it'll give you this window. From there, I'm going to make that the cart's little body. So that's another part. So I'm going to click Standing Part, and it brings me to my workspace. Once again, I'm going to start with a new 2D sketch. A good thing about 2D sketches is that it lets you choose your first plane. So you can imagine this as your floor, and then the ceiling to your left and the ceiling to your right. Not ceiling, wall to the left and wall to your right. My apologies. I personally like to build things from the ground up. It's easier and it allows me to hit that center mark. So I just click on this plane right here. Okay? And that brings me from the top view, as you can see from the orientation cube. The cart's going to be rectangular, so I can either right click and do a 2-point rectangle. Oops, my apologies. Right click, 2-point rectangle, and I can just click anywhere and make my first point there and my second point there. As I said before though, I like this top view because I can start from the center, which is indicated by this yellow dot. So I don't want that rectangle. On the top banner right here, you can see I can draw rectangles in multiple different fashions. One of the most useful is this right here, the center point rectangle. You just click where you want your center of your rectangle to be and drag it around. And there you go. You have a rectangle with the center point on the center workspace of your virtual environment. The cart, I'm going to make 3 inches in width and 6 inches in height. Press enter, zoom out, and as you can see, there's my 2D sketch. If you remember, after I did my 2D sketch, I went ahead and extruded, but as you can see, if I right click, I'm still in my sketch. It's very important to exit your sketch before you try anything from extruding, revolving, and filleting, because those are 3D environment tools. You are still in a sketching environment. Go ahead and click Finish Sketch, or do the right click shortcut, and extrude. I'm going to make this cart around 2.5 inches in height. So go ahead and type 2.5, enter, and now I have a solid block. From here, I'm going to just cut things away to make my cart. So just like making 3D objects, cutting away 3D material I have to start from a sketch. So creating a new sketch, I click on the surface I want to draw on and continue sketching. As you saw in the video, there was a little compartment right here. Using my center point rectangle, I'm going to just make a little hole right here. Let's make it 2.5 by 3.5. Okay. Finish 2D sketch. And as you can see right here on my browsing tree, my sketch is located on my object. So I can spin around and that sketch will stay on that surface. Extruding not only can make material in this environment, but take it away. So if I click on this cut, I can cut away 2.5 inches of this shape. But 2.5 inches is my entire base right here. So I'm just going to cut 2 inches in and call it a day. So right now I have a box with a rectangular hole cut out into it. I'm going to change the view over here to give you a better view of my object. Right here, shaded with edges, all I did was put these lines in right here to make it easier for you guys to see. In the cart, there was a front and back. The back was rounded and the front was chamfered. Rounding an object is a 3D modeling tool. So of course on my banner right here, I'm going to click 3D model and fillet. Once again, there are multiple shortcuts to this. You can use the banner, or you can click the actual edge you want to perform this action on and click fillet. Or you can use my right click shortcut. From here, fillet is just taking the radius of whatever arc you need and shaping the outer edge to that form. Right now I have it to 125 thousandths of an inch. That's pretty small. So I'm going to do 1 inch, and it goes ahead and gives me a ghost line of what I'm cutting out, as seen. I'm going to click check, and now my block is filleted on that edge. Continuing on, similar to the fillet, I can also cut this right here. So all I did was hover over my line, click it, and it automatically gives me these options of fillet or chamfer. Of course, you can always find it on your banner up here. So click chamfer, click the edge you want to cut away, and how far you want to cut in. As you can see on this left hand side, there are multiple different forms of chamfering. This first option right here is just choosing your line and cutting directly into it a certain distance. For the simplicity's sake of this video, I'm just going to use that function. So I have now cut away a corner for my front and radius the back. So once again, this is fillet and this is chamfer. And a tool we used multiple times already, extrude, this hole right here. In order for the wheels to go onto the actual cart, you need holes. So that requires taking away 3D material, which starts with a sketch. So I'm going to create a new sketch, click on my surface, and start away. So I'm going to make a hole from the center mark 1 inch from the corner inside, up and left, or in the Y and X axis. So I'm going to create a line, and it automatically snaps. When it turns green, it normally means halfway mark, parallel, perpendicular, etc. So right here, it automatically snaps to the corner. I give it one click, type 1 inch, and as you can see, I can control my angle. 9 degrees is straight. up and down, or I can just drag it around until it clicks into position. So 1 inch. Now I'm going to do 1 more inch, another 90 degrees. Right there. I didn't type anything in, it automatically snaps. I go ahead and click escape, and it gives me this point right here. Since we're taking material, you might think we have to draw a shape to get rid of the material, but I'll show you a little something else later. Similar to the right hand side over here, I'm going to do the 1 inch in the Y direction, and the 1 inch in the X direction, and that gives me my 2 center points right there. So I'm going to finish the sketch, and I'm going to use my handy dandy right click and hole. With this hole function, I can click on points presented on me in front of me by my sketches. As you can see, Inventor automatically gives you ghost lines right here at where it's cutting. I'm cutting a diameter of 1/4 of an inch through all material, so go ahead and click OK. Now, right here on this bottom part, there's these tabs. This is our wheel. As you saw, I made the hole for the axles 1/4 of the inch. I don't actually have to do Control Z or undo any material because I simply messed up my measurement. I will just go ahead and click on the hole function right here in my browser tree, double click it, and this automatically comes back up. I just have to fix my dimensions to 0.5, okay, and my mistake is fixed, as seen. So, there's my cart body, and I'm going to go ahead and save it. Wheel car body. Okay. From there on, there is a hood, right? So I'm going to hit new part, standard, and once again I have my 3D work environment or workspace. I'm going to create new 2D sketch, and this time I'll just make it in the vertical plane for variety. Go ahead and click your rectangle tool again, and from the center point drag out, or click and move your mouse out, and I'm going to make this 2 inches and this 5 inches. So finish 2D sketch. Oh. My apologies. Computer kind of froze on me. So I'm going to go ahead and redo that. Okay, there it is. And I'm going to extrude it. And I'll just do 1/4 of an inch. For some minor details, I'm just going to put a little hole on the top right here, okay? So right click, new sketch. Since I'm taking away 3D material, I have to work in a 2D environment first. Let's make a hole from the center. As you can see, it automatically snaps to the center line. And I'll make it 3/4 of a 1/4 way down. And once again, I don't have to draw a circle, but I can just draw a line that gives me a center point, and I can take it away from the hole function. If you don't want to do that, you can create a circle, and it will snap onto that point, and I'll make it 1/4 of an inch as well. So now you can see I have a circle on top of this. Go ahead and finish the 2D sketch. Once again, extrude. It only extrude if you have that sketch done. If not, and you only have this line, you can go ahead and use that hole function that you learned earlier. I'm going to click on my circle right there. I'm going to use the cut function and the thickness is 0.25. You can also click on that arrow and measure your distance. 0.25. Okay, so there you have it. Now we have our hood. That's the 3 parts we need to create this cart. I'm going ahead and save this right here. So let's just say hood. From there, we get to do the almighty assembly. So I'm going to create a standard assembly. And as you can see, I have my workspace once again. What differs from assembly and part is assemblies are composed of parts. So all you're doing is, like the name says, assembling items. So I'm going to right click, place component, or you can click right here on the top left banner, place component. Okay. And this is my old file. All you're going to do is go back to where you save those parts, and you can import these parts. So since the main part of the car is the body, I'm going to import that first. An important note about this is that once you place an object, it shouldn't be able to move. I have my settings different, so oops. It can move. If yours moves and you don't want it to move, you can just right click right here and click grounded, and as you can see, it's pinned. So I will no longer be able to move this around. So now that I have a stationary place, I can easily mate and constrain things to this object. Continuing on, I can place another component, and I'll place a wheel. So once I do that, I can just go ahead and click, and there's my wheel. There's 4 wheels, so I'm going to click 3 more times, and there's my wheel. Go ahead and press escape, and now I can start constraining. What I mean by constrain is a function right here that basically says you can't move this object away from another object within these parameters. This cart is relatively simple in terms of constraint, but as you build more complex objects, there are different types of constraints, such as mate, flush, angle, and it just keeps on going on and on. So what we're going to focus on right now is just the regular mate. On the right hand side of this car right here, right hand side, the wheels should be flush with one another. So I'm going to go ahead and click flush and click on 2 surfaces I want to match up. As you can see, once I click those 2 surfaces, if I look on the right hand side, these 2 objects I just clicked are now flush with one another. Go ahead and click apply. This can work with faces, but also cylindrical objects. So I'm going to click on my axle, and once you see that center line, that means you're using the center line of the round object. I can actually zoom in here, and right here, those center lines pop up, and I know that I'm communicating with the software that I want those 2 lined up. Go ahead, click apply, and as you can see, the wheels have actually entered the car body. If you remembered, I constrained these 2 wheels to be flush with one another. So no matter how I move these 2 objects, these 2 wheels will never be offset from those 2 faces. And then from here, I constrained this axle right here to this hole. So in any motion I move this, it will always be within that hole. I'm going to now mate this face with this face so the wheels are flush with the body. So go ahead and click constraint, mate, and I'm going to click on this surface and this surface. Now the car is starting to take shape right here, and the wheel is actually located correctly on the car. Now, if you look at this wheel though, it's kind of just hanging out here. The two faces are mated, and it is flush with the car body surface. It's not in the axle place. So, once again, I will do that constraint. Match up the two center lines, and apply. Now we have half the car built, essentially. So repeating this process, I'm going to just attach these wheels on this side. So I'm just going to click mate, flush, apply that. So as you can see, all I did was mate those two wheels so they would be flush with one another, and made the back part of the wheel in contact of this front face of this car. All I have to do is mate the axles. So, oops. What I accidentally did right there was double clicked on an object that I imported or replaced. So I'm just going to switch my tab back to assembly and go back into full view. Oh, I did it again. My apologies. So, constraining my axles. Apply. Constraint. Constraint. Apply. Okay. So now our car is finally taking shape and it looks pretty nice. So now I'm going to place another component, and it's time for the hood. You can constrain faces and axles, and you can also constrain edges. So from here, I'm going to constrain, click on this edge right here, and as you can see, it turns to a white color, and I'm going to click on this edge right here. From there, you can see that this can only move when it's contacting that hinge, or those two contact points. But there's also left and right play. In order to fix that, you can mate it two faces on the inside of the vehicle. But if you look at the top right here, and then you bring those lines back up, my hood is a lot smaller than the actual car space. So I'm going to go ahead and right click measure, and I'm going to measure how wide this car space is. 2.5 inches right here. So what I did before with the wheels, I'm just going to, accidentally with the wheels, I'm going to double click on this lid. It's going to bring me to this part, and I can actually go back to the original extrusion, extend that library, and in my browsing tree, I have access to the sketch. Just go ahead and double click the sketch, and I can see this dimension right here, 2 inches. Double click that, and I can edit the dimension. So once again, I'm going back into my previous work and editing it. Instead of staying within the part, I can actually edit the part and it will change in the assembly. So let's see, 2.5. So as you can see, it has widened up. Finish sketch. My piece is widened up, and moment of truth, so did the piece in the assembly. Although it is the correct size now, it still moves left from right. So obviously a constraint is needed. So once again, I'm going to click constraint and match those lines up. Close that out. And now we can only move the hinge in one direction. Something to note though, even though this looks really nice, in order to do animations, we have to drive these constraints. What I'll do is, I'll show you that a little later, but so I'll constrain, and as I showed you earlier, there are multiple constraints. I'm going to click constraint, to surface constraint, and it says 0 degrees right now. So let's just say 45 degrees, but that seems in the wrong direction. So negative 45, swing it on around, and it looks nice. So now, if you look at this right here, that will always be 45 degrees from that first plane I clicked, and I can't move it. So go ahead and save this assembly. Full car body. Yes to all. Yep. And now we're very close to making animations. In order to actually make an animation, you need a surface to drive on. So I'm just going to make a quick measurement. Sorry for the noise in the background, that's my air conditioner unit. So I'm going to measure the width of the car. So from left and, oops. Yep, so 4 inches, apparently. Okay, 4 inches. So I'm going to click Control New, standard part, and I'm just going to create a new sketch and bring up a little runway. So 4 inches, and let's say 24, 2 feet. Okay, looks nice. Finish 2D sketch. I'll go ahead and extrude this so it makes into a 3-dimensional object. And let's just do a 1/4 of an inch for simplicity's sake. And save this, and we'll call it playing field. So as you can see, as we're working on this project, these tabs are all down here with what we have done. Control New. And animations are done with assemblies. So open up a new assembly, and right now we're going to place our first object, and I'm going to place the playing field. Okay, so there's my playing field, and as I place it in, I noticed that there's no thumbtack right here, or pin, whatever you want to call it. So I'm just going to go ahead and ground this so I can't move this. And I'm going to place another component. As I mentioned before, assemblies is moving parts and assembling them into a final product. But assemblies can also load second assemblies within them. So I'm going to open the assembly, full car body, and just place it right there. So as you can see, the car is just kind of floating there. So let's constrain it to the surface. Right there. And let's line up the wheels. So we're going to make it flush and line them up. As you can see, oh, I did it again, sorry. As you can see, I can move this car forward and back, but never off the actual track since we constrain it on. And as I said before, with this angled door right here, we animate through driving constraints. So in order to make the car actually move in our animation, I have to constrain it to a single point for it to reference. So I'm going to constrain the front and back, the back of the car with the back of the lane. Click apply. And now we're ready for animations. Alrighty. So I'm not sure where animations are created in, oh, not created, are placed in the older versions, but in order to make animations, you have to enter Inventor Studio. For me, it is under Environments, but it may be under Tools. I can't remember exactly where it is for the older software, but go ahead and open up Inventor Studios, and this is where animation starts. Go ahead and pull up your animation timeline, click OK, and it shows you this timeline. I like to extend it to see my actions right here. So I'm going to just drag this up, kind of make it easier to see for us. Okay. And through our browsing library again, or browsing tree, we can see these mates. They are shown here, like this way. So I'm going to click my flush mate right here, right click, and click animate constraint. From here, I can set a start and end distance. So I'm going to go ahead and move it, let's say 10 inches. And I'm going to specify I want to start at 0 seconds and I want it moved 10 inches in, let's be very picky, 7.25 seconds. Okay, so let's see how that looks. Go ahead and click play. And as you can see, the car is moving backwards. So let's stop it, rewind, and just move it in the opposite direction. Play it. Oh. Hold on, let's try clicking OK. There you go. It just didn't load up ahead of time. So now if we click play, it goes and moves the correct direction. To edit these, like the parts, you just double click and you can re-edit them. So as you can see, we have the cart moving 7¼ inches, or 10 inches in 7¼ seconds in that plane. While it's moving, we want the hood to move as well. So we go ahead and look at our mates, and like we drove that constraint of these two flush surfaces, we will drive the angle. So go ahead and hover over that, right click, if it let me, right click, animate constraint, and I can do what I want with it. So I want it to close all the way down. So let's do 90 degrees, negative 90 degrees, and I'll make it start 5 seconds into the run, and it will take 7 seconds, or it'll take 7 seconds. So 5, 12. Okay, so let's rewind it and see what happens. Sometimes Inventor doesn't display it right away, but let's go ahead and click OK. And as you can see, the finished product is there. Let's go ahead and rewind it and click play. So 5 second mark hits and the hood starts to fall down. And it's complete. So it takes 12 seconds for our entire animation to play. Excellent. And there you go, you have a animation. You can go ahead and exit that timeline and position your camera to wherever you want it to be animated. I kind of like this top right view. Let's bring it closer to frame and let's kind of rotate it so we can see what's going on. Okay. Oops. I changed the center right there. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and render our animation. Output, and choose a place for our animation to happen. So let's say final results. Save. Of course, you can choose different options of your video quality right here. So I'll just stick with the default settings and click OK. And right now, it's just rendering our animation. Excellent. Depending on what quality you make it, it will take a different amount of time. The first one I showed you only took around 30 seconds to render because I had it at really low settings. Hopefully this one will show up better. But thanks for watching, and I'll go ahead and add this final animation towards the end of the tutorial. I hope this helped. If there was any mistakes in there, I apologize, but enjoy Inventor.